What if I told you that sometimes the kindest hearts burn out first, not because they're weak, but because they shine too bright for too long? This is the story of a boy who dreamed of changing the world, but somewhere along the way, the world changed him instead. He was 17 when he first said it, "I want to make the world better." His name was Aiden, and he meant it with every piece of his soul. While others in his school dreamed of fame or wealth, Aiden dreamed of purpose. He wanted to fix the unfairness he saw: poverty, loneliness, inequality. When his teacher once asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, he replied softly, "Someone who makes others' lives easier." The class laughed, but Aiden didn't mind. He was used to being misunderstood. Aiden grew up in a small town where dreams were smaller than rent. His parents were hardworking but tired. His father worked double shifts, and his mother stitched clothes late into the night. Still, they raised him to believe kindness was strength. Every evening, he'd sit by the window watching people hurry home, wondering why everyone seemed too busy to care. He used to write in his notebook, "If no one else will change the world, maybe I will." When Aiden turned 20, he left for the city, the place he believed dreams were built. He joined college, volunteered for social causes, cleaned beaches, fed the homeless, planted trees, and raised funds online. His energy was contagious. People started calling him the boy with a cause. He believed that with enough effort, goodness could spread like wildfire. But the city had a different lesson to teach. It started slowly. The organizations he volunteered for weren't always what they seemed. Some used donations for profit. Others cared more about social media photos than real impact. Aiden noticed volunteers taking selfies while ignoring the people they came to help. When he tried to speak up, they called him naive. "That's just how the world works," someone said. But Aiden refused to accept that. He told himself that even if the system was broken, he could still be the difference. Months turned into years. The more he tried to help, the more resistance he faced. Bureaucracy, corruption, politics, everything seemed to have a price tag. Once, when he proposed a free meal program for poor children, a sponsor told him, "There's no return on this investment." Aiden couldn't understand how compassion had to be profitable to matter. Slowly, the idealism began to crack. He started losing faith, not in humanity, but in the way humanity worked. He saw people fake kindness for attention, post motivational quotes while ignoring those who needed help, and chase followers instead of purpose. The world he wanted to change seemed addicted to pretending. One evening, after a long day of rejection and disappointment, Aiden sat on a park bench staring at the city lights. For the first time, he felt small, not because he wasn't doing enough, but because he realized how endless greed was. "Maybe the world doesn't want to change," he whispered. A homeless man sitting nearby overheard him. The man smiled gently and said, "Maybe the world doesn't need changing, kid. Maybe it needs understanding." Those words hit him harder than any failure. That night, Aiden stopped trying to fix everything. He started listening more, judging less. He began to see that changing the world didn't always mean creating revolutions. Sometimes it meant touching one life at a time. But fate wasn't done testing him. A year later, his father fell ill, and the medical bills piled up. Aiden worked multiple jobs to support his family, losing sleep and hope. The same people he had once helped were nowhere to be found. Reality hit hard. Kindness doesn't always come back. He grew quieter, colder. The boy who once smiled at strangers began avoiding eye contact. The dreamer turned into a survivor. His old friends noticed. "What happened to you, Aiden? You used to be so full of hope." He'd just smile faintly and reply, the world happened. Inside, though, he still carried a flicker of belief, too faint to see, but too stubborn to die. Years passed. Aiden became a social worker, still helping people, but differently now, without speeches, without slogans. He stopped talking about changing the world and focused on small acts of humanity. He helped an old woman fix her roof, guided a lost child home, and listened to those who had no one else to talk to. Quietly, he began to realize something profound. Maybe the world doesn't change through grand gestures, but through tiny acts that no one sees. One day, while mentoring a group of young volunteers, he met a boy who reminded him of himself, bright-eyed, hopeful, full of fire. The boy said, "I want to change the world." Aiden smiled, remembering his younger self. "That's a beautiful dream," he said. "But remember, don't try to change people. Try to understand them. The world doesn't need heroes. It needs humans who care." That boy went on to start a small community project, inspired by Aiden's quiet wisdom. And slowly, the spark that once dimmed inside Aiden began to glow again, not in the form of youthful idealism, but in the calm light of maturity. He finally understood what the old man in the park meant years ago, that changing the world isn't about saving everyone. It's about saving kindness from disappearing. It's about being the reason someone believes goodness still exists. Aiden realized that the world had changed him, but not into someone bitter. It had taught him balance. It had burned away the illusions, leaving only what mattered: compassion without ego, giving without expectation, strength without noise. He still volunteered, still helped, still smiled at strangers, but now he did it without needing the world to notice. He no longer wanted to change the world. He wanted to understand it, love it, and quietly make it a little lighter wherever he could. Years later, when people spoke of Aiden, they didn't call him a hero. They called him the man who made kindness feel possible again. And perhaps that was better than changing the world, because in a way, he already had. So the boy who wanted to change the world discovered that sometimes the world changes you first. But if you let it, that change can make you wiser, humbler, and more human. Because in the end, the world doesn't need more dreamers shouting for change. It needs more hearts willing to live it. And maybe that's the greatest change of all, not the kind that shakes nations or trends online, but the kind that quietly mends broken spirits. Years later, long after Aiden was gone, people would still talk about him, not as a legend, but as a memory that refused to fade. His story spread through those he touched. Children he once fed grew up to feed others. People he once comforted became comforters themselves. His kindness rippled far beyond what he could ever see. In the end, the boy who wanted to change the world didn't fail. He succeeded in the most human way possible, by changing hearts, one at a time, until the world around him softened just a little. And that, perhaps, was always the real dream.
If you found value in Aiden's journey, subscribe to Wisdom Life for more stories that inspire, motivate, and remind you of the power within you. Share this video to spread a little more hope in the world.